My name's Patrick. I'm an alcoholic. Patty, you can leave now. Thanks.
He's already gone.
My sobriety date is 9/23/2012. I have 11 years. That's not to say anything. That's just to say that I haven't drank and I haven't died in that time, just like these guys said before. I grew up in the mean streets of San Marino. I lived above Huntington Drive. We're throwing down now, right? I got some gang signs for you. I know how to root for USC. There you go. Throwing down those gang signs. You know, that's what you did in San Marino, right? They don't allow car dealerships and they don't allow bars. Hookers and coke and all of that stuff the dads kept to themselves. You know, I say that all in jest. I had a really good upbringing, and I still made it into these rooms. You know, I had my fair share of shit that happened to me. I was born in the 60s and lived through the 70s, and that ought to tell you enough. I didn't die of AIDS in the 80s, and that's a good thing. You know, but I saw other people do all of that stuff, right? I knew guys that died of heroin overdoses in the 70s, you know, and that wasn't a thing, right? I also grew up, I was the youngest of 4 kids. My brother's 18 years older than me, my sister's 16 years older than me, and my other sister, if she were still around, would be 14 years older than me. My mom miscarried on her 4th kid, and they waited a while till the summer that my other siblings went to Europe, and then my dad had fun with my mom, I guess. You know, the house I grew up in for the first half of my life was just a regular house. You know, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. They had a bunch of kids, right? It wasn't anything fancy. It was a very nice house, but it wasn't anything fancy. It had a little dinky yard. It was on the corner of La Mirada Road and Los Robles. And this time of year, the Rose Parade would come around, and everybody would take Los Robles to get south, you know, out of Pasadena. And my older siblings would always have New Year's Eve parties. And you know, I was an ingenious little fucker. I was a little alcoholic, right, waiting to happen. I was a budding alcoholic. So I'd take the leftover punch and I'd mix some Kool-Aid in it, and I'd go out on the street and I would sell this stuff, right, for, you know, $1/4 a cup, right? And that went pretty good for the first couple of years until the sheriff stopped by to get some Kool-Aid one day. And I had a talk with my parents. And my parents were blurry-eyed and not bushy-tailed at the time. And they said, "Oh, okay, we'll add more Kool-Aid to it." And the cops just smiled and said, "That would be great. Thank you, Mrs. Howard." You know, so that's kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of what I kind of did as I was growing up. You know, my parents were probably alcoholics. They had an account at a liquor store. That liquor store was in South Pasadena, and it delivered to San Marino. And my first party that I ever threw, I was 14 years old. My parents were away. They left me with a babysitter who was over 21. She was a friend of a friend. And we had a party, and they said, "How are we going to get booze?" And I said, "Oh, I know how. Just order it from Squire's Liquor and have it delivered." And we had a keg delivered to the house, and they didn't think anything of it. And they said, "Well, you can't sign for it. Is your mom and dad home?" And I said, "No, but my babysitter is." And they said, "Oh, that'll work." "You over 21? "Yeah, she's over 21. "Okay, that'll work." And that was it, right? And we were off and running. That house, my dad did well in the 70s and moved us to a new house. And that house was a little bit different than the other house. It had 5 wet bars, 4 bathrooms, and 2 bedrooms. And my parents' motto was that you could get drunk, you could get sick, but you couldn't spend the night. And that house was built for parties, and boy, did it host parties. My parents were big on entertaining, and they would throw big parties, 300-400 people at a time. And drinking was always always a thing, and that's what I did. I drank. Later in life, by the time I was 16, later in life, I had graduated to other things because, most of my family members were much older than me, right? So there was, they were not just drinking, there were other party favors that were involved. And I started doing that. I graduated from San Marino High School, and things got progressively worse. I had to quit doing some of the other favors that I was doing because I liked them way too much, and alcohol was just easy to get. It was legal at that time. I've always been a big guy, so I could always buy booze. It was never a problem for me. And the other stuff they tested for, right? In the industry that I worked in, they tested for drugs. They wanted to know if you could piss clean. And I could go out and drink all the time and come to work and not have it be a problem. So that's what I did. I started my drinking career. I thought everything was normal. I thought everybody drank the way I did. I got married. I had a couple of kids. I kept drinking. I started drinking more because I got more responsibilities. I got a house. I got a wife. I got the kids. I got the T-ball. I got blah 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 blah. Right? The more responsibility I had, the more drinking I would do because I really didn't want that responsibility. I was scared of it. I was full of fear. I was a kid. I was still that 14-year-old kid that was stuck in a young man's body, right? And I didn't know how to live. I didn't know how to live life. I didn't know how to treat a woman. Nobody gave me those instructions, right? None of that shit ever happened, right? I didn't know how to raise children. Fuck. I thought you just fed them and, put them out to poop and pee like a dog, right? But my wife said, no, you can't do that. So I just take the diaper off and throw it out the door to the dog. And it was too bad to clean. So, shit like that I didn't have the tools for, right? And I kept living life like that. And it got worse, right? It never got better. A buddy of mine made an analogy to me one day towards the end of my drinking career. He said, you're like that clown that has the sand in the bottom and you get punched in the face and you just keep coming back for more, right? And that's what it felt like, right? It really felt that way. When I was 48, I guess. I guess I was 48. I went to my 30th high school reunion at the Langham and drank. I just drank for 3 days, and other stupid people from that class showed up, and they had those old stupid party favors, and I did those same stupid things, right? And I ended up one night in the hot tub at the Langham at about 3 or 4 in the morning. I couldn't remember where my swimsuit was, and I couldn't remember where my room was, and I didn't know who I was in there with. Those things are not good things to remember. You don't want to walk down the hall in the Langham, buck-ass naked and trying to figure out what room you're in, right? Security guards don't like that too much. But I figured it out. I got to my room, and I went to bed. I woke up a couple hours later and went down to the pool and started off with a Diet Coke and a Bloody Mary and a cup of coffee, like any good alcoholic would do, right? Got to have a little bit of each. That was the end of my drinking career. Not that day, but the next day was the last day of my drinking career. Many of you guys know that my drinking career ended at the boat over in St. Gabriel. It was one of those hot days. I had an 11-year-old at that time who was playing soccer at Arcadia High on the new synthetic field, and they had just put in steel bleachers, and I was hungover. And it was one of those late September heat waves where it was about 104, right? And the game was at noon, and I was putrid. I was so dehydrated. I was so sick. I walked over to 7-Eleven, I got a big old thing of water, and I drank the whole thing down, and I immediately hurled everything up underneath the bleachers. I just wanted to die. I wanted to curl up in a ball and die. When the game was over, my son said to me, I said, what do you want to do? He goes, let's go someplace that has air conditioning, burgers. And I said, let's go to the boat. And he goes, oh, that's a great idea. So we went to the boat. I got I told my wife, order me a burger, and I'll go up to the bar and get us a couple of beers. And I went up to the bar, and I ordered 2 big beers, and I went to pick them up, and I had the shake so bad that I was spilling them all over the bar. And it was the beginning of NFL season. It was the first Sunday of all NFL games. And if you've ever been to the boat on NFL, there's tons of people there, and everybody's wearing their jerseys, and everybody's drinking, and everybody, it's, noon, and I got the shake so bad, I feel like I'm in a tree in a fucking tornado. And I saw all these stares and looks at me, people looking at me, and I felt like I was, 2 inches, what did my friend always say, it felt smaller than a 2, whatever it was. Anyway, I just felt tiny. And I thought, this is it, right? It's come to this. So I ordered a tray. I asked the guy for a tray. I put the beers on a tray, and I got the beers over the table. I drank one of them down, and my hands started shaking less. And that was the last day of my drinking. The next day, I went home that day, and I told my wife, I said, I can't do this anymore. And she goes, what are you going to do? And I go, I don't know. I said, I have no idea what to do. So I got on the computer, and I looked up Alcoholics Anonymous. And I went to my first meeting about Alcoholics Anonymous over the Pasadena home group, Altadena in Orange Grove on Monday night at, I think it's 8:30 to 10. It's a speaker meeting. And I walked in, and this old guy, he must have been 60, right? Said, get a sponsor, get a book, do the steps, right? And everything your life will get better. So the first 3 guys I asked to sponsor me told me no. They sold me a big book for $8. I went to another meeting, they said they were for free. I immediately started this program off with a bunch of resentments. These guys, right? It's a scam, right? The last guy I asked to sponsor me, he said, sure. He said, meet me at Starbucks, such and such a place, and I met him there. And he said, are you willing to change everything? And I said, yeah, I'm willing to change everything. He said, are you willing to do anything I say? I said, yeah, I'm ready to do anything you say. He said, are you sure about that? And I said, I'm absolutely sure. He said, okay, I'm gay. And I said, oh, all right, where are we going with this? But that was my first sponsor. My first sponsor said there are 12 steps, and there are 12 months, and we're going to take you through these steps, and you're going to be done in a year. And when I turned 1, he fired me. And he said, I've taken you through the steps. He said, you go find a sponsor that you can relate to. He gave me the roadmap to this fellowship. Those steps are really important, right? You can't do this program without doing the steps. You can hang around here and you can wait around and you won't get anywhere, right? You might get some cake, and you might get some coffee, and you might keep coming back. But until you do the steps, you got to do the work, right? There's a chapter in this book, it's called Into Action. It's not called Into Meetings, right? There was an old guy that used to say, if you want to get goosed by the Holy Ghost, you got to get off your ass, right? I miss that guy. He passed away. That second sponsor that I had moved out to Montclair, and on September 23rd of this year, his wife called me and said, come out, Terry's on his deathbed. He had been sick, I knew that. And I went out, and I got there at 4 o'clock, and on my way out, I called a couple of guys and talked through it. But my second sponsor died on my birthday this year, and that was the best gift he could have ever given me. He gave me sobriety, taught me how to walk through life. He told me that I didn't have to carry the guilt and shame that I thought I had to carry. He said, stand tall. You'll stand tall when you drop that bag of rocks that you keep carrying around. He said, make your amends. Do what you need to do to clean house. But he said, don't do it if it's going to hurt somebody else. And if you're new to the program, pick up a book, get it for free, spend the $8, it's worth it, right? Put a buck in the tip can at night, or in the tip jar, in the bucket, right? You know, do the shit, read the black part in the book, don't ad-lib it, and don't make up your own shit, right? Just read the black part. Your life will get infinitely better, infinitely better. You know, if you're scared, if you're full of fear, if you're full of shame, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. You'll get through it if you hang out with these guys. You'll tell them things you swore you'd never tell anybody, right? You'll tell them about the times that, you know, that you thought those secrets you were going to take to the grave with you, right? It's okay. It's one person talking to another person, right? It's one alcoholic talking to another alcoholic. That's how we get well in this program. If nobody's told you today that they love you, let me be the first of the new year to tell you I love each and every one of you, and thanks for being here to make a 12-step call.